What's up, guys? I want to go over something that's been bothering me lately and something that I feel should be addressed before I get into my videos about the cognitive functions. And that's this problem with intuition that I see a lot of people have. So, like I said in my previous video, we've got sensation, thinking, feeling, and intuition. And these correspond to more left-brained intelligence, these to more right-brained intelligence, and that ultimately these are just cognition or modes of attention. And the problem is that when most people first get into the MBTI, they're usually fixated on this, on intuition, because of this general understanding of what intuition is in the modern context. You know, like intuition being this sixth sense, this mystical, magical, psychic crystal ball, Rasputin type of thing that comes from the heavens and can't be explained. And a lot of people have, written books about it. It's a very fascinating subject. But the problem is that those things that I just mentioned do not equate to intuition as a cognitive function. So please, divorce your understanding of intuition in that way in comparison to the intuition as a cognitive function, despite the fact that they bear the same name. And a lot of people are so biased towards it. Even Jung in Psychological Types, I have the book right here. In his chapter on extroverted sensing, he says, in comparison to intuition, he says, "And intuition, the noblest gift of man, is turned into meddlesome officiousness, poking into every corner instead of gazing into the far distance. It descends to the lowest level of human meanness." I mean, that's pretty brutal and pretty biased, if you ask me. And in his next chapter on intuition, he says, "Sensation is a hindrance to clear, unbiased, naive perception. Its intrusive sensory stimuli direct attention to the physical surface, to the very things round and beyond which intuition tries to peer." I mean, it's so biased. I'd even argue that it's SE polar, but that's another topic. And he wasn't the only one. I mean, even Einstein had that one quote where it was like, the only real gift man has is intuition, or something like that. And so, look, I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem with intuition in a general modern context, but there's a huge problem when you try to, equate that to intuition as a cognitive function. Much better way of looking at it is just, consider the axis. These two work together, intuition and sensation. They're on the same spectrum, but intuition is more, conceptual. Sensation is more realism. Intuition is more, it deals with intangible things. Sensation deals with tangible things. And just imagine for a second that it was never called intuition, and instead it was just called C for conceptualization. All of a sudden, it becomes less appealing and less attractive to most people, right? I mean, it doesn't sound as nice and as hocus pocus as intuition. Wow. And if you view it through that lens, all of a sudden, NDOMs, generally speaking, it's like, stereotypically, these are the people that don't exercise, that spend most of the day just thinking about things and concepts that don't even exist, to the point where they're, they're willing to argue and debate other people about them. And sure, it's really great for ideas, but they kind of suck at bringing them into reality, into manifestation, actually doing things in the real world. And yeah, maybe that's a bit harsh to look at intuition as a cognitive function in that sense, but I think it's a bit more fair and realistic than this stuff. And another thing I want to do is I want to try and go over some of the cognitive functions and attribute some of the aspects of intuition in the modern sense. For example, SI, you know, people always have this phenomenon of a gut feeling, and they're like, oh yeah, that's intuition. Well, a gut feeling by definition is an internal sensation in the gut, and it usually comes from you know the person being in a situation of which has similar characteristics of what has been experienced in the past, and those experiences usually have the same outcome. So when they're experiencing that thing in the present moment, they have this gut feeling that, oh, this is probably going to happen, and then it happens. The same thing goes with the deja vu. Like, how can you have a deja vu if you haven't had a previous memory or experience of the thing that you're currently experiencing it in order to relate it to? Doesn't make sense. The SI needs to come first. The same thing goes with SC and its ability to predict things. For example, like a traffic light. Some people, when they're waiting on a red light, they'll do this game where they count down 3, 2, 1, and then the light will turn green. Or another example would be like athletes. These top tier athletes have this ability to just read an opponent's movements, just looking at their eyes or the way they carry their body or the way their knees are bent, and then from that information they're able to predict the next play that opponent's going to do. And you might say, well, isn't that NI? No, it's not. Even though the SE operates on an axis with NI, it's the sensory information that comes first, and that analysis, that deep analysis that SE can do of the physical, real world information, that's considered first, and then maybe NI can make predictions. But it's mostly just SE doing the work. Another one is like FI, feeling vibes. FI DOMs will get vibes from people that they'll feel internally, emotionally. For example, if an FI DOM goes to buy a new car and the auto salesman is really trying to push them, kind of sketchy in a way, FI will pick up on vibes internally, and it'll be like, oh, I don't really trust this person. Are they trying to scam me? Are they trying to hustle me? And then the auto salesman, that guy's like, oh no, you'll get a really good deal. And FITE, you'll be like, well, this is really cost efficient. We should take what he's saying at face value, because you'll get a really nice bargain. And it might ignore the FI, and then the FI DOM might cave in and they'll buy the car, and then 2 days later it'll break, or something will be seriously wrong with it, and they'll be like, oh, I should have trusted my intuition. When that intuition has nothing to do with it. You didn't trust your feelings, you dummy. FE, it's kind of like this phrase, a woman's intuition, or like a mother's instinct. And what it really is just empathy and the ability to understand other people, like their mannerisms, or just the external vibes that they give off, not the internal vibes that FI can pick up on through deep emotion. FI is more sympathy. But this idea that, well, it's not really an intuition, it's just FE, it's just empathy, and it's this ability to pick up on other people's feelings, and process information that way. And both FI and FE, they're way more intuitive than people generally give them credit for, in the modern context, in the general definition of what intuition is. Now, why are FE and FI more intuitive? Well, because they're connected to the right brain. I mean, TI, TE, these functions have generally like a meh attitude towards intuition. They don't really like the things that intuition represents in the modern context, of course, because they're just too logical. With TI and TE, it's okay, well, it's either a 1 or a 0. It is or it isn't. And because it's so logical, especially for TE DOMs and TI DOMs, logic reigns supreme in their minds, right? So it's not that they'll pick up on the things that intuition represents. It's just the idea that they will trust logic over anything else. So then we have NI and NE, but I'll get into that more on my videos about the cognitive functions. Like I said, I'm working on them right now, but I just wanted to go over these things and give examples of, offer a different perspective of how intuition can be viewed and why you shouldn't, or at least I wouldn't recommend, comparing this general understanding of intuition that the public has to intuition as a cognitive function. If you do that, if you divorce those two meanings and view them as, separate, I think it'll help a lot, and you'll have a better understanding of how the cognitive functions work as modes of attention. And these examples that I just gave, they're just examples. I'm not saying that this is how it is. I just wanted to offer different perspective, like I said before, of what other functions can do that aren't NI or NE that can be related to intuition. So I hope this has helped. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, and the function videos are on their way. Thanks for watching.